Hi, this is Daniel Hutchins, and today we're going to be doing a video from our friends Collider.com. So I know it's been a really long time since we used Collider.com, so I figured we're going to be using it again. So on Collider.com, we're going to be talking about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Yep, so Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and how we learn to stop worrying like Willie Scott. Okay, so Willie's not a bad character. She's just in a movie that doesn't know how to make of her performance. Now, this was from earlier this month, back in June 17th of 2021. Okay, so right around so actually this article technically came out on my mom's birthday. Okay, so here we go. So I feel a little bad for Kate Capshaw. She's been the target of scorn and derision over the years because people don't particularly like her performance as Willie Scott from the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. On the other hand, though, her work in the movie got her to meet her future husband Steven Spielberg. So I'd say it worked out for the both of them. With this release on the new 4K, I decided to go and rewatch the Temple of Doom with an open mind about her character and performance, and discovered that Capshaw isn't really the problem here, nor is the character of Willie. But the larger problem is that the Temple of Doom never quite cracks the balance of madcap energy and twisted darkness that permeates the entire film. Okay, so before you even go to the Temple of Doom, you have to acknowledge that Willie is at a disadvantage. The Indiana Jones franchise already has a bit of James Bond energy. You can spot it in Indy's outfit, with the nightclub and the flat-out casting of Sean Connery as Indiana's dad, but it's clear that wanted to carry that over a bit into a lead in Ladies. Since Temple of Doom is a prequel, it doesn't make sense to bring back Marion since the Raiders of the Lost Ark. She tells us she hasn't seen Indiana in years. However, Raiders did a job too well, and the audiences fell hard for Marion as an individual character of her own. So not just the love interest for Indiana, but Karen Allen's performance is fantastic, and you can believe that this is a character you could hang with a hero on his adventure. If you don't want to repeat yourself, you go to a character who's the polar opposite of Marion, and you get Willie. Okay. So also I think there's an element with Indiana Jones and Marion of wish fulfillment. But we'd like to believe that if you sent us on some grand adventure into tombs filled with snakes and spiders, we'd be freaked out, but we could manage. But Willie is who we actually are. If you put me in a room where I had to reach into a bunch of bugs to pull a lever and save Indiana and Short Round's lives, they would absolutely die. I'd feel bad about it, but there were like a billion bugs in that room, in that hole, and I would have noped out of there so fast it would set a new land speed record. There are those of us who welcome the grand adventure, and those of us whose vacations are about room service. And I am firmly of the latter, so I can sympathize with Willie. But the problem with Willie as a character is that she's sometimes at cross purposes with the larger films. If you take her to a nightclub scene, she's totally in her element with madcap adventure, chasing the diamonds that's kicking around the floor, or even in a plane that's about to crash. But the writing does her no favors when she goes to a poor village and rejects their food or schemes to seduce the Mahara until she learns he's a child. These are moments where the script crosses the line from Willie, is out of her element and having bad times. To Willie is a bad person, whose selfishness is deeply off-putting. So when you add up, she's not Marion, but she's kind of self-centered. You see that with Willie was an uphill battle. And that's a shame because you could kind of see how her character would work in a better movie where Temple of Doom manages its madcap energy better. Spielberg has always struggled with comic lunacy. You could see from 1941, and the Temple of Doom does him no favors when trying to introduce some disturbing levels of darkness. This film's opener, of Anything Goes, feels like a mission statement, an invitation that on his Indiana Jones adventure, you're going to see some wild stuff that's not really the repeat of Raiders. But this means going to some dark places that Spielberg couldn't quite balance with the thrills he hoped to deliver. Okay. Related to this article is Indiana Jones in 4K is so stunning, it belongs in a museum. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about something else. So a large part of that stems from the fact that what's dark from the Temple of Doom is colonialist. You can see this painful balance of lack thereof in a grotesque dinner sequence. You see that was being played for comedy, or characters are hungry, they're sitting down for what they believe will be a lavish meal, and each course is grosser than the next. But the subtext here is that these Indians are savages who happily eat gross things because they're not refined and civilized like Westerners. Yes, there's a joke, but it's being made at the expense of the others. And the darkness of it, like eating monkey brains or eyeballs in soup, only emphasizes that those others are backwards and our heroes are right to be revolted. That puts Willie as a character into a difficult position, because you can't really hold the madcap energy when the film all around you undercuts its hourly comedy and grotesque moments, and that don't land. I don't think there's a way for Capshaw to play that scene, or even to write the Willie character, where she comes out as more endearing when the scenes she has to go through don't allow her to be funny audience surrogate. And that's a shame, because I think there's room for someone like Willie on an Indiana Jones adventure who is out of their element and still manages to rise to the occasion, or at least provide good comic foils for the excitements around them. You can see this a bit with the Marcus Brody in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. When you take a look at the larger context of Temple of Doom, I see Willie more as a symptom of a tonal problem rather than anything to do with Capshaw's performance, and even how the character's written. To put in other ways, I don't think Temple of Doom improves if you somehow put another actor in that role, because the film is dealing with much larger issues than how Willie reacts to things. Her performance is broad and outlandish because that's what the story demands of her character, and then it backfires when the story also wants to be deadly serious, like when Indy and Short Round come across a child slave who's praying for the sweet release of death. I wouldn't go so far as to say Temple of Doom is a bad movie, but I'll say its problems extend far beyond what Capshaw is doing with Willie. Even the thinking behind the character, someone who's Indy's opposite, would make a good foil, is sound. But unfortunately, Willie has come in too much blame for the film's problems. Sexism also plays a part here, where it's easier to blame the female actor rather than the male filmmakers, when really you have to look at the totality of the Temple of Doom itself and see that the film's struggles go far beyond a nightclub singer from Shanghai. So there you go, guys. That's just a little bit of some information about in the defense of Willie. And if you guys like this content, please hit that thumbs up button. And again, make sure you comment what your thoughts were about how they used the sexism in the character of Willie from Temple of Doom? Let me know down in the comments. And again, like I said, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your morning. Bye.